Hello, dear Sagittarius. Have you ever carried a pain in your heart that no one knew about? A pain with no wound, no blood, yet it weighs on your soul through the passing years? Sagittarius, today, that pain will be erased. Not through forgetting, not through running away, but through a sacred ritual of the universe, when MU3 doesn't come to end your life, but to end the life that is no longer truly yours. If you're ready to release the pain that no longer belongs to you, comment, "I'm ready to be reborn into the truest version of myself." And if this touches something in your heart, like and share this video. Because who knows, you might be the very first hand that helps another soul step out of their darkness. Next, I'll show you why Sagittarius souls are always chosen to be the first to step through the doorway of rebirth. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear may change the way you see your entire past. Why are some souls born as if destined to break, only to rise again? And across the thousands of birth charts I've studied, I've noticed a strange pattern again and again, one that is never random. Sagittarius souls are always among them, not because you are weak, but because you are the living embodiment of a greater truth. Only those who carry light are taught by the universe how to walk through darkness. You are the only zodiac sign ruled by Jupiter, the planet that doesn't just represent luck, but the sacred meaning behind every challenge. Jupiter expands everything it touches, even your sorrow. But if you pay attention, Jupiter never expands pain to break you. It expands it so that you'll finally see it for what it is, and then free yourself from what was never yours to carry. There's a truth you've perhaps never spoken aloud. You've wondered why you were betrayed for being honest. You've asked why the ones you loved the most were the ones who hurt you the deepest. But Sagittarius souls were not sent into this world to be understood from the beginning. You were sent here to become a living symbol of soul freedom, even if it means walking through the desert of loneliness first. I once worked with a Sagittarius client born on December 6th. She lost everything in a single month, her job, her relationship, and everything she had built over 12 years. As she shared her story, I didn't see someone falling apart. I saw a soul shedding an old skin, like a snake preparing to emerge. Just a few months later, when Pluto squared her sun in her chart, she became a healer for others, not through theory, but through wounds washed clean by her own tears. Maybe you're standing at that same threshold now. You can't name it, but you know it. Something in you is dissolving, not to destroy you, but to set you free. Let me ask you this. Do you feel like life is breaking you just to open something greater inside? If your answer is yes, you're not alone. And you are certainly not on the wrong path. The truth is, society teaches you how to live to be accepted. But the universe teaches you how to suffer, so you'll remember who you really are. Sagittarius wasn't born to live inside the lines. You were born to expand the world itself. But sometimes, to expand, you first need to be reduced to your smallest point, so that you can burst through the mold the world tried to trap you in. In classical astrology, Jupiter also rules the guide, the philosopher, and the prophet. Which means your life is not just your own story. It's a living reminder for those who have forgotten their own light. If this feels true for you, write it below. I accept my path, even when it is different. The spiritual truth few ever speak aloud. The breaking you feel in your life doesn't come from the outside. It comes from within, from your own soul, rebelling because you've strayed too far from your truth. Think back for a moment. When was the last time you laughed without pretending? When was the last time you said, "I'm fine," but your heart was quietly shattering? You don't need to say it out loud. The universe has already heard it. And this symbolic death you're experiencing, it is not a punishment. It is an answer. The more pain you feel when living your truth, the more it proves your light is too strong to be hidden. You weren't born to cage your soul's light in silent obedience. You were born to let it shine, whether anyone sees it or not. And if today you are in pain, don't rush to end it. Learn how to sit with it, the way a small flame waits to be ignited. Have you ever felt like your soul is trying to slip out of an old skin while the world keeps insisting you wear it? Hold that question close to your heart, because what I'll share next will show you this. Not all the pain you carry is yours. Some of it belongs to the souls you've carried with you into this life. If this is resonating with something deep inside you, write in the comments, "I'm ready to step through the soul's doorway." Because sometimes a single sentence is the universe's signal that you've heard the call. To step into new life, you don't just need the courage to live again, you also need the courage to let part of you finally die. Next, I'll show you what is actually dying inside you and why you no longer need to hold on to it, not even for one more second. There is a kind of death that doesn't involve tombstones or goodbyes. It's a quiet death, one that happens inside of you. There are no tears, no farewells, yet it shakes your inner world, as if something enormous just slipped away. But Sagittarius, you're not losing anything. You're simply releasing something that was never truly yours. In astrology and tarot, the death card is one of the most misunderstood. People fear it as if it were a curse. But the truth is, it's the most sacred doorway a soul can walk through. Not to end, but to return. To return to your true self after years of trying to be something you're not. Just to be loved, just to be accepted, just to stay. I know, these are not easy words to say out loud, but listen slowly because you might be carrying a pain that does not belong to you. You've carried your parents' expectations, the unhealed wounds of an old lover, the disappointment of someone who once said, "You're too sensitive. You dream too much. You need to be more realistic." And little by little, you began to believe that you needed to dim your light, that you needed to shrink yourself to fit the image others expected of you. Have you ever felt like you were living a pain with no name, but it lingers, it haunts, and it makes you feel like your soul has slipped off its original path? If yes, you are not alone. And no, it doesn't mean you're weak. It means your light is too powerful, too beautiful, and so it must pass through fire. In astrology, the Gemini-Sagittarius axis represents the journey from information overload and noise toward divine inner clarity. You were born on the far side of truth, and your journey is to walk toward it, not with logic, but through experience. Through falling, through losing, through nights you cried alone, and no one asked why. Pluto, the planet of death and rebirth, doesn't knock gently when it enters Sagittarius. It pushes you into moments where you feel like you're falling apart, only so you can realize you are being rebuilt from the truest pieces of yourself. Not everyone who suffers is a victim, and not every pain you carry belongs to you. Some sorrows come from generations before, from a mother who gave up her dreams, from a father who was never allowed to cry, from a people taught you must be strong, even if you're breaking inside. And you, Sagittarius, were not born to continue that legacy. You were born to end it. I once met a Sagittarius born on December 2nd. She told me, "I don't understand why I always feel guilty, even when I've done nothing wrong." And when the South Node passed through her fourth house, the house of roots of family, she discovered something that changed her forever. For 3 generations, the women in her family had lived only for others. They forgot themselves. She was the first to say no, and she was also the first to feel guilty for choosing herself. That was the death of an old identity, an identity programmed by history, by culture, by fear. And when that part of her fell away, her soul finally began to breathe. Sagittarius, you are the sign of the journey, of the vision beyond what is. You cannot keep living as someone who fits others, but suffocates yourself. The universe doesn't need you to please the world. It needs you to light it up. And if right now you're in the middle of falling apart, believe this: nothing is ending. A limit is being removed, and you are being called home. Not a home outside of you, but the one where you no longer have to hide your light. If this moved something in your heart, write in the comments, "I no longer carry pain that doesn't belong to me." Because just by writing it, you begin to break the invisible chain that has weighed on your soul for so many years. You were not born to endure. You were born to transform. And what I'll share next will show you this. After the old self dies, your true soul begins to speak. Stay with me, because you are returning to save yourself. There are doors that only open when you are too tired to carry anything else. No more past, no more pain, no more pressure to be someone else. And in that moment, a divine alignment begins. Right now, the planetary movements are creating something rare for Sagittarius, a death day, but not a frightening one. It is a day when the soul is rewritten, a day you are no longer bound to what you once thought was you. Pluto, the planet of rebirth, is currently retrograding in Capricorn. This marks a threshold, the gate of soul debt forgiveness. Capricorn is the sign of social image, of roles and masks. Pluto in retrograde is the soul's great unmasking, which means if you've carried a false identity just to be loved, just to be accepted, the universe is now asking you to drop the mask. You can't pretend anymore. You no longer have the energy to force it. You can't hold on to what no longer belongs to your soul. This is not a punishment. It is a permission. Because some things can only be let go of once you've gone far enough to no longer fear losing them. At the same time, Jupiter, the ruling planet of Sagittarius, is aligning with Neptune, the planet of intuition, dreams, and past life memory. This alignment is like a gateway of light opening in your subconscious. You may begin to have strange dreams. You might feel something rising inside your soul. You can't name it, but it's clear. You might feel as if you once broke a promise to yourself in another lifetime, and now you've come back to keep that promise. I once guided a Sagittarius born on December 3rd. She told me, "I always feel like I'm living on behalf of someone who died. I don't know if I'm truly living for myself or for a soul that hasn't yet found peace." When Pluto touched the 12th house in her natal chart, the house of the deep subconscious, of what's buried, she had a dream. She was burying an old version of herself. There was no funeral. Just a single candle, a whisper, and a surrender. So quiet, so light. The next morning she cried, but not from pain, only a very clear feeling. I was just born again. Maybe you're in that same ritual now. No music, no eulogy, but within you a chapter is quietly closing. Not all endings require drama. Some of the most sacred endings happen in silence, like a leaf that falls because it no longer needs to hold on. You don't have to carry everything just because it once mattered. You don't owe anyone anything. You only need to be honest with your soul. If you've ever had a dream where you felt like your soul was reborn, right below this video, I saw the return of my true self in a dream. Because when you write it, you're telling the universe, I am ready to fulfill the sacred promise I once made. And if you haven't had that dream yet, don't be discouraged. The deepest truths often arrive the softest. Maybe tonight, as you sleep, a soul within you will rise and place a hand over your heart, and you will know the moment of rebirth has come. Sagittarius, you are not just living, you are closing an old version of yourself and making space for your true self to finally breathe. Don't be afraid if you've lost interest in what used to excite you. Don't panic if you feel lost. You're not losing yourself. The old direction simply doesn't lead home anymore. If this touches your heart, leave a comment. I give myself permission to release and begin again, because only when you allow it does the door open. So what comes after the death of the old? You might be asking, if I'm no longer the one who carried everything, then who am I? That is what I'll share next. The journey back to your true soul doesn't begin with action. It begins with a sacred moment, when you hear your own voice calling. And that voice is growing louder. Don't be afraid if you feel like you're cracking open from the inside. Don't be afraid if you don't recognize yourself in the reflection staring back from the mirror. Because the truth is, you're not dying. You're being called. It's not that your old soul has vanished. It's that your true soul is finally being allowed to live. You are not breaking down. You're being released from what once acted as your armor. And though it hurts, this is the most sacred experience a soul can endure. Some souls are given a peaceful path, one that doesn't shake too much. But there are others, like you, Sagittarius, chosen to live deep, to love deep, to fall deep, so that you may rise, brighter, truer, more human. Why is it that only Sagittarius can walk this path? Because you carry a brave heart. Not brave because you have no fear, but brave because you keep walking, even while trembling. You are not afraid of the truth, even when that truth has cost you the entire world you once built. You are the only one who dares to walk through a gate with no map, where every sign is unclear, but your intuition shines like a flame that never goes out. I want to ask you something, softly but deeply. Have you ever looked into the mirror and felt that the eyes staring back were no longer yours? Not because you're fake, but because you've been tired for far too long, trying to live as someone you're not. There is a phase we all must go through. You no longer enjoy what once thrilled you. You feel distant from those who once felt so close. You feel uneasy with what used to bring you joy. You are not lost. What's happening is this. Your true soul is whispering, "I want to live." You are not like those who fear the dark. You are the one who carries the torch into it. And when your light meets the fear within your own heart, something miraculous happens. You realize you were never lost. You have loved, you have lost, you have endured, and now you will rise. Not for applause, not for anyone to witness, only for one truth. You know you have returned. I once met a Sagittarius, 38 years old. She told me something that still echoes within me. I don't know who I am anymore. I feel like a shadow, still alive, only out of duty. I didn't say anything at first. I opened her natal chart, and there it was. Chiron, the symbol of soul wounds, had just entered her Sagittarius. I asked her, if today you could start life all over again, would you allow yourself to be soft, to do nothing, to be real? She was silent for a long time, and then she said, "It's been so long since I last gave myself permission to just be me." Rebirth doesn't require strength. Rebirth only asks for honesty. Honesty with your tears, with the unfinished, with the unsaid, and with the parts of you once hid because you feared no one would accept them. If this is making your throat tighten, leave a comment below. I've heard the voice within me, because once you acknowledge it, your soul will no longer have to scream in silence. Maybe right now, you still feel fragile. But do you know this? In the moment you feel the weakest is when your real light begins to stir. Don't try to hold it all together anymore, Sagittarius. Don't strain to prove yourself. Don't cling to what's already over, just because you fear the emptiness. Because emptiness is the sacred space into which the new can enter. If you've been living too long in a role that never fit you, write it now as a declaration of new birth. I choose to return to who I really am, no matter how long it takes. You don't need to be the light for the entire world. Being the light for yourself is already holy enough, and when you begin to rise from the broken pieces, something miraculous happens. You meet yourself again. Not the self you were taught to be to survive, but the original soul hidden beneath the mask. And next, I'll speak to you about that sacred reunion between you and your soul. There's a strange moment when you no longer cry from pain, but cry because you feel yourself returning. No one has to validate it. No reason is needed. It may be just a quiet morning when you wake up, and the heaviness that once crushed your heart is simply no longer there. That is what happens after the door of MU3RT3. When death is no longer an ending, but a baptism of the soul. A silent ritual, no temple, no scripture, but it cuts deep to the bone. You begin to breathe as yourself. You feel lighter, even though you don't know why. The noise outside is still there, but it no longer pulls you with it. You begin to hear the voice within, and it's no longer the voice of blame, no longer the voice of fear, but what you'll hear is a very familiar voice, your voice. Before the world taught you to become someone else. And then, maybe you'll dream. A dream unlike any you've ever had. Not dramatic, not strange, just deeply real. You'll meet someone. Maybe it's you as a child. Maybe it's someone who's passed. Maybe it's a stranger, but you know those eyes are not unfamiliar. They won't say much. They might just stand there and look at you. But in their eyes, you'll see a version of yourself you once lost, and who is now returning. In many Western mystical schools, there is an asteroid called Chiron, the symbol of soul wounds. When Chiron passes through fire signs, especially Sagittarius, it acts like a key, unlocking ancient memories you've carried from lifetimes past. Not through clear images, but through emotions that come back vivid and specific. A sense of unnamed loss, a deep sorrow, as if your soul was once abandoned in a battle no one remembers. A feeling that you once made a promise, and now you're back to fulfill it. But here's the miracle. You don't need to go searching for that soul, because it's already searching for you. Not every death is tragic. Some deaths are the universe's apology for letting you carry burdens for too long without anyone there to hold you. The death of the old self doesn't need a funeral. It just needs a hug from you to yourself. A Sagittarius once told me through tears, I thought the universe was punishing me. But now I understand. The universe was pulling me out of a life that my soul never belonged to. And if that's where you are, don't rush away. Stay. Sit beside the part of you that's fading and whisper a simple sentence, thank you. you may go now. Write it down. If this is touching a place within you that you've tried to hide, I have forgiven the old version of me. Because forgiveness is the first doorway home. And that old version doesn't need to be erased. It just needs to rest. You'll come to realize something profound. Rebirth doesn't make you someone entirely new. It simply brings you back to the shape your soul was always meant to be. You don't need to start from zero. You just need to return to your original heart, to your first trust, to the light that was once buried under worry, betrayal, and endless demands from the world. If this feels like it's opening a sacred space within you, one that's been waiting to be heard, write it down as a ritual of return. I give my soul permission to live again. Because you don't need approval from anyone, only your own affirmation. And when your true soul begins to live, you'll see, every choice you thought was wrong was actually the only road that could lead you to this sacred encounter. And next, I'll share with you this truth. When your real light begins to rise, your soul will draw in the rewards you once thought you would never receive. Because after every true release, there is always a gift waiting. But not the kind of gift the outside world has offered you. The gift from the universe comes from within. It doesn't sparkle, it doesn't dazzle, it simply feels true. And for Sagittarius, the gift that arrives after the symbolic death of the old self is not fame, not wealth, not recognition. It is something far more sacred. First, an intuition so strong you no longer doubt yourself. You've had hunches, you've sensed things before they happened, you've heard that inner voice only to silence it. Because you feared being wrong, you feared being called delusional, you feared they'd say you were just imagining things. But after this journey, you no longer doubt, you know, you feel, and you trust it as surely as you trust your breath. There's a strange peace that comes when you no longer need permission to believe your soul. When you no longer need proof to walk the path your heart has chosen. You simply listen and step forward. Because the true soul doesn't need to be explained. It only needs to be trusted. Second, a relationship that arrives not because you need it, but because you are already enough. After you no longer seek love to patch your broken pieces, after you stop trying to be seen by someone, after you've been brave enough to sit with yourself on your loneliest nights, someone will arrive, not to save you, but to walk beside you, not because you are lacking, but because your soul has become whole enough to connect without disappearing. They will never make you feel like you have to shrink to fit into their heart. On the contrary, they will open their heart wide to welcome all the light you carry. This is the kind of love that doesn't make you lose yourself. It makes you remember who you are. And finally, a clear purpose, to guide others with the very wounds you've already healed. You once thought your pain was just personal misfortune, but now you understand it was living testimony for someone else who's exactly where you once were. Your healed wounds become maps, and the light you now carry not only lights your way, it illuminates the path for every soul still lost in the dark. I once asked an elder Sagittarius, "Do you regret all the painful years?" He looked at me, eyes not sorrowful, but ablaze. If it weren't for them, I wouldn't have learned how to hold the flame for someone else when they're cold. Then he said, "We weren't born to run from pain. We were born to turn pain into a lantern." If you've listened this far, and your heart is still open, know this. You are ready to cross the most sacred threshold of your life. No more turning back. No more bracing yourself. No more shrinking just to fit the world. Now is the time to open the real door. Sithka, to live the truth of your soul. And if something within you is stirring awake from these words, write it below this video. I am ready to receive the gift of my soul. Because the moment you claim it, the gift begins to appear. And now, a journey is closing. But within this ending, a brand new sky is opening. Next, I will offer you a farewell, the softest one, yet the deepest, to carry with you like a silent blessing on the path ahead. Thank you, Sagittarius, for walking with me to this very moment. Not everyone has the courage to listen to their soul's calling. But you stayed, and that's the sign that you're ready to live your truth. You are no longer living to survive. You are living to be reborn. If this touches something in you, write it down. I am ready to step into the destiny of my soul. And if this video meant something to you, don't keep it to yourself. Like it, share it, Send it to someone who needs light, because maybe, just maybe, you are the first torch on their way home. I'll see you again, in the most beautiful version of who you truly are.